to never look at yourself as less than anybody else, and so inferior, and never look at yourself as superior to anyone else. We are all equals. We just have different skill sets, different abilities, and we're at different stages in our lives and our development. Everybody, however, is equal, and I look at everybody as equal, and I find that a very beneficial mindset to carry around. Taking that assertive stance into negotiation situations. Again, it's about focus. It's about learning to act now rather than delaying things and putting them off till tomorrow, or getting stuck in a decision-making process in your mind where you're just stuck in that loop and it's going around and around again. Make a decision, take an action. If you need to, roll a dice. 1 and 3, I'm going to do it. 4 to 6, I'm not going to do it. At least that will create forward movement for you. Stay focused and controlled. I'm just going to run through these quickly because a lot of them relate to the previous slide as well. Be direct and specific when you're talking with people. Get across the message you want to get across. Be certain of your facts. If you're going to state something as a fact, be sure that you're right, because you don't really want to end up with egg on your face later on. And that would degrade you in terms of the other person's or the other people's opinion of you. Be polite, courteous, be persistent. If there are people getting in the way of your goals, of what you want to achieve, stay focused, stay strong, and stay persistent in getting your needs met. Avoid harboring grudges. If somebody's in your life and they're not working, if you're not for me, you're against me. And if you're against me, I don't need you in my life. So cut out the dead wood. That can be a challenge to do to start off with, but really, by allowing your mind to focus on and have those people in your life, they're taking up a space that could be filled with people who could be a lot more beneficial to your life. And just holding on to relationships, friendships that aren't serving you is actually not going to just keep you in the same place. It's going to hold you back and pull you down. Don't get sidetracked from where you want to go, and never grovel or apologize. You are who you are. If you make mistakes, you can admit to those mistakes, but you don't have to apologize for your behavior in those circumstances. Here's another tip, and it goes back to that superiority thing or inferiority thing, is avoid judging both yourself and others. And that can be a really challenging thing to do to start off with. What you may notice about yourself is when you're observing people or you're meeting people for the first time, you might hear a negative statement in your mind about that person. Unfortunately, all judgment and criticism is self-judgment. You're judging a part of yourself in that other person. That's the way the mind works. And if you can avoid that happening, if you can retrain your mind, the way I did it to start off with about 10 years ago now was that any time I had a negative impression about somebody, I had to come up with 2 positive statements in my mind immediately after that negative statement to correct it. Your mind gets pretty bloody tired of doing that if you have to keep doing it. It's a great way to retrain your perspective. And we'll move on. There are some words in language that we either use verbally or in our minds that are really toxic to our progress. And they're words that I would encourage you to look to avoid using. So don't, ought, should, must, but, try, wish, and hope are words that are of no benefit to you whatsoever. I can have hope for somebody else because I can't control that. It's outside of my control. But I never hope for something for myself. If I want it to happen, I want it to happen. And I would do my best to make it happen, but I'm not going to hope for it. It's like saying, I'm going to try high-intensity training. If you prompt your mind with that suggestion that you're going to try something, That's all it's going to do. It's going to try, and try is a very weak word. Whereas if you say, I am going to do it, you're giving your mind a direct instruction. The issue with words like don't is the mind doesn't work particularly well with negatives. So if you say, I don't want that to happen, all the mind is really hearing is, I want that to happen. You're setting yourself up for something that you don't want to have happen to happen. We could go into loads more detail about this, but for today, I just want you to be aware that there are words that some of you may or may not be using, and cleaning up your language can be of great benefit. Okay, so we're going to move on to the nutritional aspect of the talk now. And nutrition relates to stress because when you're feeding your body well and correctly, you're providing your body with more energy, more usable energy, and perhaps even more importantly, you're providing it or avoiding providing it with anti-nutrients, which are going to slow you down, make yourself slipping into that stressful state far more easy to happen. The book that I co-authored, The One Diet, comes at nutrition from an evolutionary approach, and I assume that some people in here are aware of paleo evolutionary approach to nutrition. Can I see a show of hands for people who are aware of that approach? And people who are currently engaging with that approach as well. Okay. So from about 3 million years ago to today as a species, to about 10,000 years ago, which is about 99.6% of our development and our DNA's development, our diet consisted of meats, seafoods, fresh fruits, and fresh vegetables. Those really are the foods our bodies are designed to thrive and perform at their optimum on. Conversely, nowadays, cheap ingredients are undermining our health. The more we've become removed from the food chain and awareness of how food is produced and what food can do for us, the more ingredients are slipped into our diets that are of no benefit and no help to us whatsoever. And primarily, those are rapidly digested carbohydrates, grains, sugars, and sweeteners, which are pretty much prevalent in anything that comes pre-boxed in a package. That stuff is loaded with cheap ingredients, which makes a lot of sense for the manufacturers because they can sell something with a high profit margin. Unfortunately, it's doing us as a society and as individuals, even more importantly, a disservice. And you have an issue which is of greater importance in the States, but is creeping into our food here. Chemically altered sweeteners like high fructose corn syrup, which from an evolutionary standpoint we have no experience of, our bodies do not know how to handle, and they've been in the food chain for just 20 years. Tiny, tiny amount of time.